What is going on, Governor Chisgule here, and today we're going to be reviewing this monster Garrison commander, Yi Sun Shin. Hello my friends and welcome back. This new commander into Rise of Kingdoms is going to be amazing for defending cities, and they just might be a rock star for defending other garrisons as well. If you like Rise of Kingdoms guides that help you get value and smash your enemies, then consider smashing the subscribe button for daily Rise of Kingdoms videos. We're also a sponsored content creator. So, why do I think this commander is potentially very, very powerful, besides the fact that they look freaking awesome? And by the way, this look right over here is identical to this commander's statue, real-life statue, commemorating him. Anyways, I think this commander could be exceptional because he's just got so many stats that he brings to the table. Just boosting attack and defense, a kind of unbelievable amount. What we're going to do in this commander guide, as always, is review the skills, the talents, how you unlock them, and the skill investment order. And then last, but certainly not least, and probably my favorite part, is commander pairings. We'll have timestamps down in the bottom if you want to jump to any part of this video. So let's dive right into the skills. This is a leadership, garrison, and defense commander. I mentioned in my video about Theodora that leadership is a very weird talent tree to have on a commander of this nature. Card up in the top if you want to go check that out. Let's get into the first skill. For field battles. So if you're fighting in the field, you have 2,000 damage factor to a single target. Seems like a lot of damage factor to load onto a single target. The second half of this skill says that garrisons deal damage to up to 3 targets in a fan-shaped area. So if you're defending a garrison, you have AoE damage and it's 1,400 damage factor. That amount of damage will go down with each additional target that you're hitting. But overall, you're gaining a lot of damage and you punish people for being near the garrison. I really like that. There is also a march speed reduction of 30%, which I think is not going to be doing very much for us. We're really not using this commander to reduce the march speed of the enemy. The next skill increases the defense that you have by 20% and your damage by 15% for 3 seconds when you are in a garrison or fighting on Alliance territory. So there's a 10% chance to get 20% defense and also 15% damage. I think this is all right. And what I think is interesting is this whole fighting on your own territory thing. Being in Sunset Canyon does not count as your own territory. Being in Ark of Osiris does not count as your own territory. So really, we've got a commander here that is getting some amount of augmentation if they're on their way to a garrison, or even more likely, I don't know if you've ever been in this situation, I know I have, where I'm trying to get my march into the flag and I'm just sort of standing outside it because the flag is full. In that sort of a situation, this commander is getting a little bit of a boost to fight in the field, which I think is nice. So it's a garrison-related skill, but also if you're trapped in the open field because you're still trying to get into the garrison, at least you've got a little bit of extra combat punch. Continuing on to the next skill, you get a flat 30% defense boost. This is amazing, okay? This benefits all troop types, and there's no condition on it, 30%. Okay, and in addition, when you are below 50% strength, you get a 20% damage bonus. This is really, really good if you are in a flag, if you're defending something that is a prolonged fight. That is going to go well because you're going to drop below 50% and you're going to be that way for a really long time. I think this is less compelling for defending your city because in most cases, if a big high power player city is getting rallied, it's not going to get below 50% before they cancel the rallies. And if it does, you are in a world of trouble already anyways. Now, what I want to call attention to with these first two skills is that they really kind of balance each other out. This skill I actually think is a little bit weaker. And the reason that I say that, when your normal attacks have a 10% chance to do this effect for 3 seconds, it's nice, it's good, But on average, over all time, you're getting about a 10.5% boost to sort of defense slash damage. I combined it all together. That's some sort of fuzzy math where I basically say, hey, you get a 20% defense boost for 3 seconds. That's 60% defense over the 3 seconds. And you get that once every 10 seconds from your normal attacks. So you divide by 10, and that's how I get 6% for the defense bonus and 4.5% for the damage bonus, so 10.5%. I mention this because if we look at other commanders and just try to compare, like I got, 10.5% over here and 30% over here, that's like 40% total. Well, Theodora looks about the same. She's got 20% over here, 20% over here, right? And I guess 10% of that is a conditional. So maybe she's not even quite as good. If we look at a commander like Wu Zetian, you got kind of 20% of benefits over here and 20% of benefits over here, 40% total. It's sort of commensurate. So I guess out of that quick little evaluation, what I'm trying to say is those two are on par. They look like bigger numbers than they actually are because the amount of uptime that they have is not going to be 100%. Now, continuing on to the next skill, it increases the attack of the garrison by 20%. This is still all troop types, which is very powerful, and gains a 10% chance of receiving a shield plus 30% more counterattack for the next 3 seconds when attacked. Now, if this works the way I think it does, that means that if you're getting hit by lots of armies, the chance of having this fire off is very, very high, which is really, really strong. The last skill is the expertise, which requires you to have 2 different types of troops present to get the benefit. And if you do, you get a whopping 20% attack and 20% defense, which when you compare that to a commander like Constantine, who's just giving 20% in total, but you don't have to have 2 troop types, I mean, wow. This is a very powerful garrison commander for sure. I think the expertise skill is amazing, and because all of these boosts give so many stats to all troop types, I feel that this commander is an obvious slam dunk, amazing city defender commander for that reason. Now, with that said, I actually think they could be pretty powerful in a garrison, like a flag or fort or holy site as well, even a pass. We'll talk about that more in a bit when we get to the pairings. Let's dive into the talents that I would recommend for this commander. Now, because he has the leadership, garrison, and defense tree, I'm going to recommend a couple builds that are very similar to what we did on Theodora. Before I do, I'll mention that the leadership tree is very, very strange. Most of these talents I do not want. I do not want most of these talents on a garrison commander. He's not doing healing. Having extra troop capacity does really nothing for you. You've got to waste a bunch of points to try to get armed to the teeth or armored to the teeth, which is really not exciting to me. Normally, I go up to strategic prowess in the leadership tree, but then I'm picking up 4 points in march speed, which is doing nothing for me. The only thing I'm interested in this tree is Hidden Wrath, and it almost makes up for the fact that the tree is otherwise not compelling. 6 extra rage every time your troops' commanders are attacked is a big deal. That's going to stack up for every army or rally that is hitting you. You got 10 things hitting you? That is 60 rage per second. That is a lot of rage generated and is a powerful enough rage engine to say, even though I don't like the leadership tree, for the fact that there's just not many talents I want to take, this one talent is so good, and the garrison and defense trees are already so good, that I'm cool with it. Let me show you what is in the garrison and defense trees that I would recommend. This is also the build that I had for Theodora. If you're an Ark of Osiris, I would recommend this build. It's very, very powerful, giving you a huge amount of anti-swarm technology. Also good, by the way, if you're getting multi-rallied, although that won't happen in Ark of Osiris. It will happen if you're defending a flag in Kingdom versus Kingdom. I also really like Kingsguard for the huge amount of stats. I did pick up Loose Formation and Medicinal Supplies. If you're in Ark of Osiris, get Medicinal Supplies. If you are in a Kingdom versus Kingdom context, get Testudo Formation. Healing effects are not very exciting to me because you can sort of have the same effect by just dumping more troops back into the structure. And I'll call attention to the fact that Burning Blood also gives you 6 rage every time your troops are attacked. This will stack with Hidden Wrath from the leadership tree. So that's a grand total of 12 rage every time your troops are attacked. That is insane. 10 armies hitting you, that's 120 rage a second. Of course, 10 armies are hitting you, you've got bigger problems, but whatever. Let's talk now about the city defense build. In this case, I have again avoided healing and gone for Testudo formation, and I've also gone off to the side to get nowhere to turn and impregnable. I've also got 4 extra points of flex in addition to the 6 that I left over for Hidden Wrath. Now in this case, because you have Hidden Wrath and Burning Blood and Nowhere to Turn, you are getting 18 rage a second for every army that is hitting you. That is 180 rage a second if you are defending your city, getting swarmed by 10 marches or rallied 10x. I suppose, again, if that's happening, you've got bigger problems than your rage gen, but I am pretty excited about the rapid fire nature with which your skills will be slaying. Let's go evaluate those skills again for the investment order and talk briefly about how you unlock this commander. Yi Sun Shin is a commander that I really think is only advisable to use in the garrison, not in the open field. That is in part because of this second skill, which is all about the garrison. And yes, the whole skill is garrison related. And also the fact that this skill is also fully garrison related. The whole thing, top to bottom, requires you to be in a garrison. The rest of the skills don't make up for it, in my opinion, especially this. Like, if you drop below 50%, you're going back into town anyways to refresh your troops. Use this commander for a garrison, and they've got some benefit if you happen to get stuck in the field, but I would not try to use them that way. Now, I always recommend you max the first skill when you're working on one of these commanders. Legendary commanders have a lot that they offer in that first skill. Max it before you proceed. From there, you've got a lot of choices. This skill does get a lot better at a non-linear rate. It's improving by 3%, and then 3%, and then 4%, 4%. For the damage bonus, it's 2%, 2%, 3%, 3%. So if you are on a budget, you could max the first skill, then you could max the second skill. From there, yet again, this has non-linear progression. The last couple skill ups are better than the first couple skill ups. And the same is true of this last skill as well. So if you are using this commander in a less than maxed out capacity, then I would recommend that you try to power up some of these earlier skills. The only downside to that is that, quite frankly, this earlier skill is just okay. I don't think it's amazing. So I don't know that you're really getting a ton of value by maxing that one. I guess what I'm trying to say is that this is a garrison commander, and if you're defending a garrison at this far into Rise of Kingdoms, when we've got all these other garrison commanders that you probably have maxed out, I would have a hard time believing that this commander will be significantly better than any of the other garrison commanders that are legendary that are maxed out when this one is not maxed out. So I think you're going to want to max this out before you start using it, which means it is a spender's commander most likely because it's dedicated to the garrison. Now, I know some amount of free-to-play players look at that and they're like, oh no, more pay-to-win, commanders, but hold on for a second. This is a commander that is really only good as a garrison captain and defending your city. In my opinion, when commanders come out like that, that's a win for free-to-play because it means there's not some other commander that you're kind of behind on. It means you can continue to focus on commanders like Alexander the Great or a Constantine. You can work on those commanders that are going to give you a lot of value in many game modes, whereas this is giving a big spender an advantage only in 1 or 2 situations. You've got commanders that are really universally exceptional that you can go and invest in. All that to say, this commander unlocks from the Wheel of Fortune. I don't think that most players need to unlock this commander, even though I do generally advise that it's nice if you can to have every single commander in your roster unlocked, because you just never know when they might be really, really handy or the next best thing based on new pairings that become available. Let's jump into those pairings, and there are a lot of pairings that you can work with this commander due to the fact that they don't really care about a troop type, although they do require multiple troop types to be present. I do think that Esong is a phenomenal pairing. I love the rage gen that they will be offering, and I love the damage boost that they will give each other if they're defending a garrison together. I really like Esong and YSS together as a garrison pair. I think you could pair with Richard I as well, although I don't love it. That would be something you can do in Ark of Osiris, but I wouldn't recommend it for defending a flag. Again, for that reason I mentioned earlier, that, look, healing factor is nice, but you can get the same effect by just having more troops dumped into the flag. So I'd rather that you're getting a damaging effect, which actually harms the enemy and gets kills, and then you just replace the troops as you need to in the flag rather than healing them back up. The only reason that Richard still holds a candle in any of those situations is this is a really good skill right over here. Continuing on, Charles Martel is a pairing you could do. I'd use Charles Martel primary so that you are elevating the damage by 30%, then doing the huge area of effect damage offered by Esong Shin. Continuing on, I think that Constantine is an interesting pair, in large part because of the Sol Augustus skill, which is giving you 15% troop attack and 5% defense, doesn't care what type of troops, although you will really want to stack the garrison infantry if you do this pairing. The next garrison pair that we can get a look at is Artemisia. I do think Artemisia and Esong Shin is a solid pair. They're both doing frontal cone AoE damage. If you had them in a pass together, and the enemy can only attack with 3 marches and they're going to have to be in that frontal cone, I think that is super powerful. You are going to want to stack the garrison archers, which is very important. I also like the anti-Attila Takeda technology in this skill from Artemisia, and overall, I love the huge amount of damage that you are bringing to the table. The next obvious pairing is going to be Wu Zetian. Wu Zetian is very powerful in the garrison, and neither of them cares about a troop type. I probably would use Wu Zetian as the primary for the rage engine that she offers. The support tree is just unbelievable in rage generation. She also has the leadership tree where you can pick up those crucial talents right up over here in Hidden Wrath, and then the majority can make their way into garrison-related talents, which I think will be very solid. The last pair that is legendary that we need to talk about is the obvious Theodora pairing. These two together are going to be phenomenal if you're defending your city, or even potentially in other garrisons as well. Theodora brings some amount of anti-Attila Takeda technology. That is something that Esong Shin definitely needs and does not have otherwise. At the epic tier, and I would tilt my head a little sideways if you're looking at pairing these at the epic tier, but maybe you use your Sun Tzu to defend your city, and that's the best you've got. I think that Sun Tzu would be a phenomenal pairing. The rage gen is going to be exceptional from this active skill, hitting multiple targets and generating lots of rage. From there, you of course could pair with other epic garrison commanders, but again, this far into the game, you would have had to have either migrated to a really old kingdom, or you just don't have the commander depth to be able to field multiple legendary commanders on your wall. Overall, I think Esong Shin is very powerful. I would be very interested in expertising this commander along with Theodora, pairing both of them on my city's wall, and then seeing what the heck happens when I get rallied. Of course, kingdom versus kingdom for us is presumably still pretty far away, but when that happens, ooh baby, I suppose we'll see who wants to tango, and if it holds up as strong as I think it could be. Because again, these stat boosts to universal, troops, like it doesn't care if it's archers, infantry, cavalry, or siege units, or if you have them all. That is a huge amount of effectiveness, right? Like, think of this skill over here, okay, as 40% of stats to infantry, 40% of stats to archers, 40% of stats to cavalry, and 40% of stats to siege units. Whew, I mean, in a situation like defending your city where you have all those units, I think that is just going to be really tough to beat. What do you think about this commander, and where do you think they're going to be good? Leave a comment down below. I'm very eager for your thoughts and your pairings that you're planning to do. And consider dropping a like on the video if you enjoyed this, and subscribing for more daily Rise of Kingdoms videos that help you get value and smash your enemies. Until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom.